Students, welcome back to your social science history class, chapter 8, Modern Europe. The main learning objectives of this chapter is we'll be studying about the causes and effects of Renaissance, the geographical explorations and their effects, what are the reasons for the religious reformation and effects, the industrial revolution and its effects. First, let us move on to the Renaissance. The Western Roman Empire of ancient Europe, it was destroyed by the barbarians during the 5th century. So they had to protect themselves from the invasions. So the Roman Catholics, all of them got united under the leadership of Pope. So after from this, the churches started filling the common people's mind with superstitions just to protect their supremacy. So the development came to a standstill with all these factors. So the entire period is called as a dark age. Due to the weak kings, what were the reasons for this? So due to the weak kings, the feudal kings became powerful. The lower and the middle class of Europe, they got crushed during this period. By the starting of the 15th century, a new era awakening started. So we can also see what were the causes for the Renaissance. Increased the trade with Asia and other regions, growth of large wealthy cities in Italy, renowned interest in the classical learning of the ancient Greek Rome, rise of rich and powerful merchants, increased the desire for the scientific and technological knowledge, desire to beautify the cities. Then during the medieval reasons, what were the reasons? Movement of crusaders renewed connections across Eurasia, centers of trade and travel developed along the Mediterranean due to crusades, knowledge transfer from Middle East due to crusades, downfall of feudalism, feeling of the futility and anger at God for Black Death, and reaction of the horrors and evasions, the Black Death. So these were the causes for the Renaissance. Now let us move on to the meaning of Renaissance. Children. So the word, when we tell the word Renaissance, it has come from the French word Renaissance, meaning rebirth. And Renaissance also means rebirth, revival, or a new beginning. So this was a cultural movement that spanned roughly during the 14th century to 17th century. The beginning of the Renaissance was in Italy in the late Middle Ages, and later it spread to the rest of the Europe. So the new understanding of the Latin and the Greek literature led to the new awakening. This, inspired by the reading of this literature, the people of Europe became simple and they became the rationalist and humanist, engaged in seeking the truth. These people ended the Dark Ages and started the modern age. Now we will move on to the beginning of the medieval period. Renaissance. The medieval Italy had its unique cultural heritage. The environment, children, was conducive to the study of Latin literature and was present in the rich cities like we had Rome, and we had the Venice and Geneva. In all these places, what happened? There was study which was going on. Due to the invasions that took place in other parts of Europe, the scholars, the artists, and the thinkers arrived in Italy. They came to Italy and took refuge there. So, like this, the Renaissance was first started in Italy. and slowly it starts spreading to the other parts of the Europe. You can see the Western Europe emerged from the Middle Ages during an era known as the Renaissance. From 1300 to 1600, the Western Europe experienced a rebirth in trade, learning, and Greco-Roman ideas. So during the Renaissance, the Europeans developed the new ideas in art, governments, and human potential. That is why the Renaissance is known as marked as the beginning of the modern era. You can see the map here. See the map which is very close to the Italian states. We can see that they all fled. Next, we will move on to what were the causes for the Renaissance. Many thinkers like Peter Abelard, Roger Bacon, John Wycliffe, and other rationalists questioned the superstitions practiced by Catholic Church and became the reason for the beginning for a big movement. In 1453 the Ottoman Turks, they captured the Constantinople. So here what happened, the gateway which was there of the European trade with Asia had got the hold on the city of Constantinople. So the intellectuals of the Constantinople, they came to Italy along with their books and became the reasons for Renaissance. Then in 1455 CE, the German by name Gutenberg, he invented the printing printing machine that led to the printing of books. So this facilitated the spread of the knowledge very soon. Then we had the kings, popes, and the rich who patronized the intellectuals in Europe. Pope Nicholas III, Pope Leo X, and the Queen Elizabeth I, they gave shelter to many intellectuals and also aided the growth. They gave the opportunity for the growth of knowledge. Then we also have the new geographical inventions and crusades introduced by many new places in the East. They amassed the wealth and knowledge which led to the Renaissance. So the meaning of Renaissance is, what is that? The meaning of Renaissance, can we tell children? Yeah, the meaning of Renaissance is revival or rebirth. This word indicates that all the changes that took place during the medieval period of Europe, the changes that took place during the 14th and 15th century in all the fields like the political, art, literature, religion, and philosophy, we call this as the Renaissance. Initially, in the starting, the Renaissance first started in Italy. Later on, it started spreading to the other areas of Europe. That is why Italy is called as the land of Renaissance. Now let us move on to the features of Renaissance. The thinking of the people during the Renaissance movement was different from that of the people during the Middle Ages, children. So the people's opinion towards the world and the man, by this time it was changed. So this we call it as humanism. So the humanists developed the keen interest in great literatures, and attempts were made to support the actions which were related to the human life. Secondly, the works which was written in the languages like English, Italian, and German, the writers of Renaissance period, they became very famous. Thirdly, there were also changes in the economic and social life, children. Agriculture gave place to the commercial and industrial activities, and the fundamental changes that took place in the social relationships also. Fourthly, one of the most main feature of the Renaissance was the interest which was shown by the people in great culture, and they had the desire to cultivate that culture. So this we call it as the imitation of the best. Then we had lastly the migration of the Greek and Roman Empire, Roman scholars came to Italy. This was the first sign in Italy. Now we will move on to the next topic, literature of Renaissance. Before that, let us see what do we mean by humanism. Revival of classic learning and literature, that is the interest in ancient Greek and Roman cultures. So what was the focus of on human beings? First one was the education that perfected the humans through the study of the past models of civic and personal virtue. Second was the value system that gave more emphasis on the personal effort and responsibility. Third was physical and intellectually active life that was directed at a common good as well as individual nobility. Now we will move on to what is the impact of the humanism. We will see the medieval thought and the humanism. Church and kings were most important here during the medieval period. During this time, what happened during the modern? The individual is important. During the medieval, man is sinful. Here, humanism, man is good with dignity and value. Here, a hierarchy of the people's worth. Here, the dignity and worth of all the people were included. During the medieval thoughts, the life pleasures must be avoided to please God. Here in humanism, people can enjoy the life and still be good Christians. In medieval thought, accepted the human conditions. Here they encouraged the human achievement. See what all the changes took place of this the impact of humanism. And lastly, the accept the church doctrine without question. Here each individual finds the truth for himself. So these were the changes which took place during this period, children. Now we will move on to the literature of Renaissance. Italy, this was the motherland for many leaders, great leaders. France, Germany, England, Spain, they contributed a lot to the literature during this time. The theme of literature of this period was worldly matters rather than the religion. There were many articles which were written here. It was written the articles like it was written on the human body, the other subjects, the voice. So instead of Latin, many of the regional European languages also came to be used in the daily life during this period. And we also see that the translation occupied an important place in the period, and the nationalistic feeling which had risen with the reign of Elizabeth awakened the people's desire for the knowledge about the England's past history, Scottish and Irish history. Another kind of literature prevailing at that time was found in large number of books describing the discoveries and adventures. Now let us move on to the literary works. Literary humanist. First we are having the patriarch. He was born in 1304 and his period was 1304 to 1374. See, Petrarch, he is known as the father of Renaissance. He collected about 200 Latin and Greek manuscripts. Africa is one of his famous poem. It is in Latin language, and he is also well known for his poems and sonnets. A deep contemplation of man's happiness and sorrow can be seen in his poem. We also see that a collection of 100 stories, was called as a Decameron and written in the Italian by Boccaccio. And we also have the famous work, the Divine Comedy, which was written by Dante. Then we are having the Chaucer of England, Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales. Here it is Canterbury Tales. Then we are also having Don Quixote by Cervantes of Spain, where He has of Spain. Then we are having the Utopia, written by the Thomas More of England. These are all the notable books which have been written, children, which have been written here. And we are also having the William Shakespeare, who was an excellent poet and dramatist. He wrote numerous tragedies and comedies. We had the St. Paul School, which was established in London and was dedicated to the acquisition of this new knowledge. So these are the literature development which took place during the Renaissance period, children. Now we will move on to the Renaissance art, architecture and sculpture. During this period, children, the art was simple and natural. Artists drew, you can see artists drew the murals showing the mythological characters, you can see here, and also the Jesus Christ and his followers, and with the natural human emotions. There were many artists in Italy during the 16th century. We have Michelangelo, we can see his paintings here. Leon da Venice and the Titan, where we are the important artist. Michelangelo's Adams and final decision, Leon the Last Supper, and Mona Lisa Raffles, or as Raffles' assistant Madonna, and Titan's Assumption of the Virgin. All these are the famous paintings. So now we can see here the famous paintings here. Next we will move on to the science during the Renaissance, that is the birth of modern science. Modern science was born during the Renaissance period. Science set aside religious dogma and come out with the new discoveries. Learning about humans become precarious to new inventions. People during the Middle Ages, they started accepting accepted everything without any question. As a necessity, and questioning attitude developed, scientific research also increased during this period. We are having Francis Bacon, who declared that the ancient scientific decisions did not represent any professional knowledge. So Descartes encouraged the skepticism and advocated the questioning of everything before accepting it. Poland's Copernicus disproved the Earth-centric argument of Ptolemy of Greece and showed that the sun was the center of the solar system. Now we are having John Kepler. He was a German scientist, and he explained that the planets revolve around the sun and on the oval orbit. And also he was a German mathematician, astronomer and astrologer, famous for his laws of planetary motion. Next we are having Galileo, who discovered the telescope, and he supported the theory of Copernicus. He also he was forced to withdraw his support due to the premise from the church. Next we are having the Newton. So Newton discovered the laws of gravitation and said that all heavenly bodies are controlled by gravitational force. So one of the keen interest was shown in the study of chemistry, medical science and anatomy. Andrew Vesalius conducted a human surgery and wrote a scientific book on the possibility of effective treatment on the skeletal system, muscular system, brain, liver and reproduction organs. Next we will move on to the effects of the Renaissance. So the Renaissance ended the dark age of superstitions in Europe and facilitated the modern knowledge. It ushered in religious reformation, It provided base for humanity and individual freedom by ending the tyranny of Catholic Church. The growth in art, literature, science led to the many changes, and the human curiosity led to the growth of human interest, which facilitated the geographical discoveries. Many European languages like Italian, French, German, English, and Spanish, and other languages achieved a very good development during this period. Now we will move on to the next topic, that is the geographical explorations. During the 16th century, it has been called the century of geographical exploration. Till the end of the Middle Ages, the Europeans were ignorant of geography. In the after the developments, the Europeans found out the new sea routes of various parts of the world and the new continents of North America, South America, and Australia came to light. Now let us move on to what were the reasons for the geographical explorations, children. So, when the Turks conquered the Constantinople in 1453 CE, it closed the trade gates between the east and the west. So, with this, the Turks started getting more profit out of the spices imported from India. Because of this, the Europeans faced the inevitability of finding a new sea route to India. Secondly, the Spain and Portugal were very ambitious and competing with the Arabs in the sea trade, and the local people and rich encouraged the adventurous youth to venture into the sea. Thirdly, the discovery of new countries opened the possibility of spreading Christianity. European curiosity was roused by the adventurous nature of sea voyage towards the eastern countries, and they ventured to bring spices, silk, cotton, muslin cloth, and to sell them for profit. And during the Renaissance period, the experiments which was done had proved that the earth is round. Mariner's compass and astrolabe equipments were helpful to the sailors. Charts and maps were available to sailors. Marco Polo explained the richness of India and China. In his book Travels of Marco Polo. This book and his traveling experience to these countries and these explanations have attracted the Europeans to visit these countries. So I will stop here, children. In the next class, we will move on to the geographical exploration and what were its effect and what do we mean by religious reformation, and also what were the effects of religious reformation and counter-reformation movement and industrial revolution. We will see all these topics in the next class. Thank you, children.